I'm curious, you guys have a broad agreement about this sort of skepticism around Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I'm not even skeptical. I know it's not going to work. I mean, if I was skeptical, there'd be some doubt in my mind. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Look, Bitcoin is a fad. I mean, Bitcoin, they call them a cryptocurrency, but it's not a currency. I mean, it's not money, and it's not even a currency. The dollar is a fiat currency. It's not money. Gold was money. The dollar is a fiat currency. It used to be a legitimate currency when it was backed by real money, gold, but now it's backed by nothing, but it's a fiat currency. But at least it's a currency. Bitcoin is not a currency. I mean, it's not used as a medium of exchange, really, or a unit of account. It's just used for speculation. But it's not an investment asset like real estate. It doesn't pay rent. It's not a stock. It doesn't pay dividends. It's not a bond. It doesn't pay interest. It's not even a commodity because you can't use it for anything. What it really is a collectible token. So right now you have a bunch of people collecting Bitcoin. Why are they collecting Bitcoin? Well, for the same reason that people collected Beanie Babies, because the price was going up and they thought the price would keep going up. But you know what? There's 21 million Bitcoins and they're all exactly the same. To me, they don't seem very scarce. They seem very abundant. I don't think these Bitcoin collections are going to be worth anything when the music stops. People told me that when the bubble burst in Beanie Babies, they were able to use the Beanie Babies to insulate their homes. They could shove them in there between the walls and they made good insulation. But, you can't do anything with a Bitcoin. Once nobody wants your Bitcoin, it's completely worthless. I mean, intrinsically, it's worthless right now. But there's a market value because there's some fool willing to buy it. But why is a fool willing to buy Bitcoin? Because he assumes there's a greater fool who's going to pay even more money in the future. Whether he understands that dynamic or not, that is exactly what's going on. But I personally think the Bitcoin bubble will pop before the dollar bubble. So we may have a cryptocurrency crisis before we have a dollar crisis.
Again, areas of agreement and disagreement. So I'm not particularly negative on cryptography and the development of digital forms of currency. I think it's inevitable. I tend to lean towards the dynamic that we will see CBDCs emerge as compared to private sector solutions. But we will see some of the innovation that's occurring in the crypto space. For example, tokenization of securities is, in my opinion, ultimately inevitable, right? The ability to embed a much more complex and a much more robust feature set than can happen with an electronic QSIP, for example, is something people have heard me talk about over and over again. My problem is very specifically as it relates to Bitcoin and the speculation in the asset class that it is some form of a store of value that will preserve itself for an extended period of time. I think it's being misrepresented to the public. I think that the deregulation or the lack of regulation in the space is leading to the type of speculation that's the opposite of what Peter has hypothesized. You see constant claims for 100% APRs or APYs that people assume are actually the equivalent of interest rates. They're not. They're effectively short volatility, speculative positions that involve the sale of options and volatility, which is something I tend to know a little bit about. So these are not yields in the classic sense. They're not a central entity that is paying you a fixed rate of interest as people tend to think it is. It is a true risk position in a speculative asset that, in my opinion, is being misrepresented to you.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on the fact that there may well be some very practical applications to cryptography, to digitizing and using the blockchain to represent ownership of real assets and make it more convenient to have title and to transfer that. I mean, that's all great, but that's got nothing to do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is belief that that particular digital token is going to be worth millions of dollars someday. And I mean, people, it's like a religion. I mean, my son's, been indoctrinated into the cult and, he's like completely delusional, now he's got an excuse, he's only 18, but you've got a lot of older people that don't really have an excuse. Although some of the people that are out there, to me, they're just pumping and dumping. I mean, this has been a huge marketing success for the people who got in early and who continue to pump this thing so that they can get out and cash out and make a bunch of money selling, what amounts to digital snake oil.
Yeah, I tend to agree on the marketing aspect of Bitcoin and the prospects for Bitcoin itself. I understand the motivation. One of them is what Peter just referred to, right? That the older generation doesn't have it and the younger generation does. And so it is perceived that this is one of the ways to effectuate a wealth transfer that needs to occur. I think it's unlikely to be successful. I can't express the same sort of surety that Peter has, but from the standpoint of a market participant, it's not an area that I think is worthy of speculation in the way it's being pursued today.
Look at this, Bitcoin bringing us together. Mike Green.
There you go.
Having a passionate agreement. Gentlemen, this has been a very long, detailed debate.